Good afternoon. Before I sing a song that I wrote several years ago called Dead to Sin, I'd like to read some passages of scriptures upon which this song is based. And one thing that I was searching for when I read Romans chapter 6 is what it meant to be dead to sin. And let me read that passage. It's chapter 6, verse 1. What shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? God forbid. How shall we that are dead to sin live any longer therein? Now, I started to really question, what does that mean to be dead to sin? You know, so many times we live according to our experience rather than according to what God says in His Word. He's got so many promises to us that help us to understand that through Jesus Christ we have been delivered from not only the penalty of sin, but from the slavery of the bondage of our old life. And it goes on in chapter 6, he says, knowing this, that our old man is crucified with him, that the body of sin might be destroyed, that henceforth we should not serve sin, for he that is dead is freed from sin. You know, and I kept reading that and I said, Lord, salvation in Christ is a freedom from not only the penalty, but from the bondage or slavery of sin. He went on to say in that same chapter, but God be thanked that you were the servants of sin, but you have obeyed from the heart that form of doctrine which was delivered to you. Being then made free from sin, you became the servants of righteousness. And I suddenly realized in my own personal walk with Christ that Jesus had purchased freedom and deliverance from the old life, and that I could live a new life in Christ. He says in chapter 8, all these promises are so wonderful to us to believe and to walk out in our own personal life. He said, but ye are not in the flesh, but in the Spirit, if so be that the Spirit of God dwell in you. Now if any man have not the Spirit of Christ, he is none of his. And he says, for if you live after the flesh, you shall die, but if you through the Spirit do mortify the deeds of the body, you shall live. And so we see not only the promise of God, but the responsibility and the instruction of God of what to do about sin and the old life. And he says, reckon yourselves therefore to be dead to sin and alive unto God. And so I wrote the song basically claiming the promises that God made. And that gives us a freedom and an understanding of the freedom and liberty that we have in Jesus Christ, not to continue to live a sinful lifestyle, but to live a godly life. Now, of course, none of us are perfect. Paul admitted he was not perfect, and he never would be perfect until he got to heaven. But he was striving to be more like Jesus in attitude and action in his life. And so, but we have victory over the old life and a new life in Jesus Christ. And he says over in Galatians, but if you walk in the Spirit, you'll not fulfill the lusts of the flesh. And so Christ purchased for us freedom. And so the song is called Dead to Sin. And I hope that you'll take it and learn to sing some of this song, and it'll be a blessing to your heart. May God bless you. Remember, we are dead to sin and alive unto God in Jesus Christ.
I'm dead to sin, I'm alive to God, I'm walking in the power of the Spirit, no longer enslaved to sin's dark way, my Master has set me free. The cross he said to carry gave me life and liberty. I'm dead to sin, I'm alive to God, I'm living in victory. I once lived life in a perilous way, living in the flesh, walking in the world to my own desires a slave. Now the world said you need counseling, support groups 2 or 3. I saw Jesus on the cross, he'd come to set me free. Now I'm dead to sin, I'm alive to God, I'm walking in the power of the Spirit, no longer enslaved to sin's dark way, my Master has set me free. The cross he said to carry gave me life and liberty. I'm dead to sin, I'm alive to God, I'm living in victory. I'm dead to sin, alive to God, believing His book, walking in the Word, 'cause I want to keep my soul from sin. His promise is sure, His Word is perfect, and you can count on them. Don't let anyone tell you anything different if you want to be in heaven with Him. I'm dead to sin, I'm alive to God, I'm walking in the power of the Spirit, no longer enslaved to sin's dark way. My Master has set me free. The cross He said to carry gave me life and liberty. I'm dead to sin, I'm alive to God, I'm living in victory. I'm dead to sin, I'm alive to God, I'm living in victory.